When you think of a Pokemon generation, you probably think of the games that led it off. For example, if I said Gen 9, you would probably think of Scarlet and Violet and not Legend ZA. However, they are both part of Generation 9, and today I'm going to be deciding which generation is the best of all of them. I'm going to be taking into account, most importantly, the games that led the generation, remakes, and here and there maybe some extra stuff like show appearance, but mostly just the games and remakes. Alright, let's get into it. I'm going to start at Generation 1 and move forward across the generations, so let's get into it. Alright, Generation 1 gave us Red and Green, or in America, Red and Blue. And really, there was nothing extra to it. Yes, we did get Pokemon Yellow, which was a remake of the game where you had Pikachu as your starter, but literally other than that, there was no differences, basically. Generation 1, I will give it credit though, obviously had the first, Pokemon series with Ash and stuff, which is super iconic. Obviously, Kanto, Gen 1 games, just super nostalgic. Amazing games. But overall, definitely not going to win our best generation because it's just that. And we're looking for the best overall, which means we pretty much have to have a generation where there's remakes involved and maybe spin-off games. Alright, Generation 2 gave us Pokemon Gold and Silver, which are the games set in the Johto region. Also amazing games and stuff. They did give us a third game called Pokemon Crystal. Again, same kind of things I had to say with Gen 1. Really nice, an absolute pioneer for the games, but nothing, again, too crazy happened. It was just new games. Moving on to Generation 3 though, that's when we start getting spicy because Gen 3 brought us Ruby and Sapphire, our game set in Hoenn, which people love those games a lot. I mean, they're really good games. It also gave us Pokemon Emerald, which had Rayquaza and amazing stuff. Just great games as it is. Also, this is our first generation to give us a remake. It remade the original Pokemon games, Red and Green, as Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, updated in color, and with a few new changes for the Game Boy Color, I believe. Yeah, the Game Boy Color at the time. Pretty cool, a great contender, but I don't think it's gonna get number 1. Generation 4 gave us Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which are great games set in the Sinnoh region, and obviously we went back to the Sinnoh region, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and Legends Arceus later. But overall, this generation didn't have anything crazy. It did have remakes though. It remade Gold and Silver as Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but the anime wasn't super notable, it didn't really stick out to me, and overall, another really cool, all of the games just had so much development and felt so at its time, every game felt like it was just insane. But I think it's going to be with Gen 5 onward that we're going to start getting some real contenders for the best generation of all time, because we're going to need a bunch of cool stuff going on. I'm talking about a generation with good mainline series games and good remakes of main series games. Moving on to Generation 5, this brought us into the Unova region, which had Black and White and Black 2 and White 2, which are all amazing games, easily some of the strongest, probably top 2 games story-wise in my opinion. They just had great stories. It was cool. A lot of people didn't like how it was only Unovan Pokemon at the time. I thought it was pretty cool, but overall, solid generation. However, there weren't really remakes, and yes, there were the direct sequels to Black and White, but I wouldn't count that as a remake. And because there's no past remakes, I think the games are very strong on their own, but I don't think they have the potential to be regarded as the best generation ever. Because like I said, the best generation ever has to have really strong new games and really strong remakes. Which brings us to Generation 6, which does exactly that. Generation 6 brought us Pokemon XY, the game set in the Kalos region. This was also when the series shifted from 2D to 3D. So before this, Gen 1 and 2 were originally Black and White. Gen 3 brought us color. And from then on, there wasn't anything too crazy visually, there wasn't too many crazy changes. But Gen 5 into 6, as we went into the Kalos region for the first time, it brought us 3D, which was pretty cool at the time. Generation 6 also brought us Mega Evolution, which is the first battle gimmick that we've gotten, and since then it's become a staple that every game has its own cool battle mechanic. But Generation 6 was the first game to start this, which is pretty cool. I personally have a lot of nostalgia for this, as this is the games I played growing up and also the show I watched, and I also think most people would agree that the anime peaked in X and Y. It also had amazing remakes, Ruby and Sapphire into Alpha Ruby and Omega Sapphire, which are both amazing games. They took it, changed a few things, and added Mega Evolution to the games, and obviously brought it into 3D. And those are some really solid games, as is brought into 3D and remade was just phenomenal. I think Gen 6 is easily a top 2 contender for this. Generation 7 brought us Pokemon Sun and Moon, and then Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It also included Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, because if you think about it, when Sun and Moon came out, obviously they came out on the 2/3DS, but then the Nintendo Switch released, and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were kind of the first new mainline series games on the Nintendo Switch. They actually came before Sword and Shield, which is something that I'll admit I forgot. If I didn't pull up this list I have here, I completely would have overlooked that and put Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee into Generation 8. But Gen 7 had Sun and Moon, like I said, and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which are sequels / remakes. I really wouldn't know what to call them, but both are really solid games. I love Alola. The anime was cool, nothing crazy, and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were fun remakes, albeit not super... If you played it, you know what I'm trying to say. They weren't super revolutionary, they didn't bring anything crazy, but it did bring us Kanto into 3D, which was really cool to see, and overall just a fun, lighthearted experience. Probably a top 3 contender, if I had to be honest. A really good generation. Now, Generation 8 brought us Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I will say this, I know a lot of you guys don't like Pokemon Sword and Shield, but this is my list. In Sword and Shield, I have a lot of nostalgia for. They were some of the first games I played. I really like them. Also, the first games to make the leap to the Switch. First Pokemon games of all time to be able to be played on a big screen. Crazy that it took like 24, 23 years, however long. It took a long time for that to happen. They were also the first ever Pokemon games to get DLCs, which is becoming kind of a trend as we see new games all around getting DLCs. Sword and Shield's DLCs were the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra, which were both really solid in my opinion. And for a lot of people who don't like Sword and Shield, I think the DLCs definitely redeemed it for it a bit. Also, Generation 8 brought us Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I will not glaze this because most people say that Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl are the worst Pokemon mainline games of all time. I haven't personally played them because of these allegations, so I don't think it's my spot to judge here, but I'm just gonna say at least we got a cool remake. And Generation 8 also brought us our newest mainline series, the Pokemon Legends series, which does count as mainline games. It brought us Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is, I would say, the first kind of open world Pokemon game. I know Scarlet and Violet technically was, but when I played through Pokemon Legends Arceus, it felt very open world to me and brought a lot of cool things like the new catching Pokemon outside of battle mechanics. I think Generation 8 was a very experimental time. A lot of people wouldn't say its games were the best, but it was very experimental. They tried some new things with the Legends series. They tried remaking stuff with that chibi style, which people didn't end up liking. And, you know, with the Sword and Shield games, they were just trying things out. In my opinion, a top 3 contender because I really like all 3 of those projects. Well, I haven't played Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, but I really like Sword and Shield. I really like their DLCs, and I also really like Legends Arceus. So I think that's a very solid contender for this.
If you've made it this far, please subscribe. You're clearly enjoying the content, and I'm posting new videos every single Friday that you won't want to miss.
Also, I forgot to mention, Sword and Shield's phenomenon gimmick thing was Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing, which was making your Pokemon huge, and Sun and Moons was Z moves, which gave Pokemon super special moves, which were really powerful that could only be used once per battle, and some Pokemon got exclusive moves. So both great gimmicks. I will say Z moves are definitely better than Dynamaxing. That's one thing that I won't glaze Sword and Shield for. Dynamaxing wasn't the most creative thing, but I liked it. But nothing crazy. I think basically all the other gimmicks, except for terrestrialization, are better. Which brings me to Generation 9, Scarlet and Violet, the most recent games in the series. This is definitely a big jump because this is the first main series games to bring us into the open world category, which was pretty cool. Obviously, it didn't work super well because it was very glitchy, and for those of you who are like me and still play on Switch 1, it still is very glitchy. However, it did give us some DLC for it, and the Kitakami and I'm blanking on the name, Blueberry Academy DLCs were pretty fun. Nothing crazy, but they give us a nice story and some nice cool new maps to explore and stuff. Pretty solid DLCs, but I prefer the Sword and Shield ones. The games, story-wise, are very good. Again, decently experimental with the open world thing. I think it could have been better, and I really disliked how it was, you can do whatever you want, but like, you know what I mean? Like the gyms, you kind of had to do them in a certain order, otherwise it was just all out of whack. But honestly, some really solid games. Definitely not some of the best games, but they got a few things right. Like the story was really good, you know, and it was just very experimental, kind of like Gen 8. Gen 9 also brought us Pokemon Legends EA, which definitely isn't as well received as Pokemon Legends Arceus, but kind of for different reasons. Legends EA, in my opinion, and the opinion I've seen from most people, everybody loves the Legends EA battling. That is absolutely the highlight of the game. It's amazing. But also, after that, the list of things people love about the game kind of run low. Maybe some of the megas and some of the characters, but in all honesty, the game itself isn't crazy. Kalos is my favorite region, and I'll admit it, I was kind of disappointed to go back to Kalos for it to only be set in one city. And the city itself, you think the graphics would at least be crazy if it was all in one city, but you've all seen the windows in that game. However, the new megas are cool. Shout out Mega Scrafty, my goat. Overall, pretty fun games. And like I said, the battle system was just amazing. But I will say Legends Arceus definitely takes the cakes over it for maps, story, and graphics. Only thing Legends EA does better is battling, but that is kind of the main part of the game, so you have to keep that in mind. Alright, I've explained what happened in every generation, but now it's time to actually decide which one's the best. So I'm going to narrow it down to the top 3 competitors. These are my top 3 favorite generations that I think are the best generations based off of everything we've covered. I would place Pokemon Generation 7 in the top 3. The Sun and Moon games were great, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were great, and Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were fun and lighthearted. My next entry for the top 3 is going to be Generation 6. It started giving us Mega Evolution, which started a chain of getting a new battle gimmick every generation. It brought us into 3D, and it had remakes, which were Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which are some of the best remakes, if not the best remakes, in all of this series. And my final entry into the top 3 is going to be Generation 8. Gave us Sword and Shield, the DLCs for that, Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl, and Legends Arceus. Generation 8 probably gave us the most content because we got, obviously our 2 story games, DLC for those story games, a remake, and a completely different spin-off mainline series title, which is really cool. But again, Gen 8 was pretty experimental, which is why it is not going to be the winner for this, which leaves it between Generation 7 and Generation 6. Generation 6 is the best generation out of all of Pokemon. I mean, come on, look at it. X and Y are very highly praised games. A lot of people like them. They had a cool, albeit small map. The Dex was cool. It gave us Mega Evolution, which is most people, including mine's, favorite battle gimmick. Chespin, my favorite Pokemon, is from Kalos. A lot of my favorite Pokemon are from Kalos. The anime peaked in X and Y. That was absolute peak, bro. Ashgar Ninja was insane. And the games themselves were amazing. Not to mention that we got remakes of Ruby and Sapphire, which were great games, into 3D with an enhanced story with Mega Evolution. I mean, come on, what more could you want? A return to one of our favorite regions with added things and in 3D, which is completely new and crazy at the time, plus insane new games with a cool new gimmick, and obviously 3D for the first time ever. Also the first games that ever released worldwide at the same time, which is pretty cool, although we've gotten used to it now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but I'm pretty confident in saying Pokemon Generation 6 was easily the best generation of all time. I think I speak for everyone when I say that we all hope that Generation 10 is just as good, if not better, than Generation 6. If you want to see me go more into depth about types of stuff we can see in the next Pokemon games, go look for it on my channel. It's my only other video at the time, but I will be releasing videos every single Friday, which is going to be amazing. Make sure to subscribe if you made it this far. You're clearly enjoying the content and it would help me out a ton, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.